Tell me about the day you got the diagnosis.
It was 7:00 a.m., January 7th, 2019. It was the guy who ordered the CT scan, the pulmonologist, and he said, "James, I got the results back from the mass in your chest. You have cancer. I've scheduled an appointment with you with an oncologist in Plano, and I strongly suggest that you show up." I think that was the first time I ever contemplated my own mortality. The oncologist, the first thing she said to me was, "Congratulations." And I was like, "Sweet, misdiagnosis, let's go." And she said, "Normally people with tumor markers as high as yours, they don't walk in here." And I was like, "What do you mean? Did they skateboard in here? Did they rollerblade? What are you talking about?" And she said, "Normally they're dead." The weight of that statement was just, it was heavy.
Today, we have my friend, James Ingram, and he is a funny character. He is so much fun and full of life, but there is a story here that you are just not going to believe, and I can't wait to share it with you. Welcome to the show, James.
Thanks
I'm
for
so
having
glad
me.
you're here with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
So let's talk first, kind of introduce everybody to who is James, right?
Yeah.
So you're a financial advisor for Northwestern Mutual.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been doing that?
Since 2018, but I had a little break in there that I refer to at the office as my vacation.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about that vacation.
For sure.
You're married to Caitlin.
That's right.
Caitlin's also known as
Mrs. Honey. She was just a regular old Honey, and then when she got a ring on it, she got promoted to Mrs. Honey.
I love that. So where are you originally from?
I was born in Barbados, which is an island in the Caribbean, the best one. I'm biased towards it. You know, it's the most easterly island in the Caribbean. It's where Rihanna's from. It's where I'm from. We invented rum.
Are you and Rihanna like cousins or something? Both
Close.
Being from Barbados?
No, I can't claim to any family ties with her. No.
But you look Irish and you sound Irish.
Do I really?
Yes.
People tell me that all the time. Yeah, St. Paddy's Day is kind of crazy. All the old ladies come and pinch me because they think I look Irish.
But your family history, origin, like they didn't come from Ireland to Barbados?
No, almost nothing. I think the closest we can get to Ireland is like England, Scotland, and maybe Denmark. But yeah, I look like this. Yeah.
Does everybody in Barbados have the same accent you have?
Close. I feel like in the U.S., accents change a little bit based on geography. But since Barbados is so tiny, I think accents change based a little bit more on like demographic. Like if you're a surfer, the surfers talk a little, you know, the car racers guys, they talk a little bit different. Yeah. So most people sound similar to me, but not everybody.
When you go home or when you go back and see your family, do they say that you now have a U.S. accent?
Occasionally. I have picked up the word awesome, and they're like, "Yeah, you sound so American now saying awesome." But no, yeah, I think it's kind of half and half now. I've been in the U.S. since 2008. So I think I might sound a little bit more American than Barbadian, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old are you?
34 years young. Yeah.
You've lived a lot of life in 34.
Hard to tell by looking at me. Yeah. Yeah, I've lived a lot. Yeah.
How did you get from Barbados to the U.S.?
Well, that's a great story. When I was very young, I showed a little promise in tennis. I played competitive tennis for a really long time. I was ranked number 1 in Barbados from under 10s all the way to under 18s. And my parents sent me away to a training facility in Europe when I was 17 years old, and had a brief stint playing professional tennis, and got injured when I was 19. And my parents said, "You need to start university." And back then I was like, "Nah, university is dumb. I'm going to heal up and then go back playing professional tennis." But fast forward 3 months, I was sitting in a classroom in Tifton, Georgia. That was January 2008. So I've been here for a while. Yeah.
You got your associate's degree from the school in Georgia.
Yes.
And what was that in?
Business. And not super interesting, but, associates in business. And then transferred to Ouachita Baptist in Arkansas for my bachelor's, and then had the opportunity to work in D.C. for a little bit on the Hill, and went to Nebraska for grad school for my MBA.
Were you playing tennis during all this time?
I was playing tennis in college. While I was in grad school, they gave me the opportunity to coach the men's and women's tennis team in exchange for a free MBA. So I wasn't playing tennis in grad school. I was more coaching. Yeah, but tennis kind of funded the whole thing pretty much.
At some point in there, did you switch your sports?
I know where you're getting at. The answer is we kind of switched a little bit before that.
Okay.
And I know where you're going, and that's a great story.
So let's talk about whenever you started playing a new sport.
Well, it was during the kind of the last year of the professional tennis thing. I was dating a gal. Let's leave that term loose. And she left me for a rugby player.
Well, and let's paint the scene. I mean, back then you're like fit.
I looked a little bit different.
Like,
I thought I was the bee's knees.
Do you have some washboard abs?
I did. I'll show you those pictures on Facebook later. So she was a model. She looked pretty good. She was from an Eastern European country. Let's just leave it at that. And she, I thought we had something special, and she left me for a rugby player, and I was kind of all like heartbroken. I was like, why?
And did you decide why she left you?
She told me. She said, well, rugby's more manly than tennis. And in kind of like a last-ditch, hopeless effort, I was like, well, what's more manly than rugby? And as she was walking away, she was like, I don't know, boxing. Michelle, I started boxing the next day. That's not no word of a lie. That's true.
And so did you become pretty good at boxing?
I became okay. I thought about taking it to the next step. But I started grad school right when that was kind of happening. And, you kind of get a little bit busy, and priorities kind of fall by the wayside, and, hobbies fall by the wayside. But I didn't take that as far as I wanted or I thought I could have. But it was a good time.
And did
I have this nose that used to be straight. Tells the tale for that. Yeah.
Did the switch to boxing result in better statistics with women?
Surprisingly, no. Surprisingly, no. I think I was still batting like a 200 average right there. Yeah, but it doesn't matter now. All that's in the past.
So, how did you meet Mrs. Honey?
That's a great question. Do you want the short version or the long version?
Medium version.
Medium version. We met in early 2015 at a CrossFit gym in Lincoln, Nebraska. And
this is while you were in grad school then?
I was about to be finished grad school. We met in, I think, like February 2015, and I graduated in May 2015. So I went into that CrossFit gym. Well, I worked out there, and she did as well. And I was there to check out this other lady who I'd been talking to. And it was during the CrossFit Open. All you CrossFitters will know the Open that I'm talking about. And she was like, hey, I want you to meet my family. And so I get there, and she starts acting kind of shady. Like, she was kind of ignoring me. She was giving me the cold shoulder. Anyway, I was like, I'm out of here. I'm gone. I'm going home. It's late on Friday. I'm out of here. So as I'm literally walking out of the CrossFit gym, I have my hand on the door to go. And one of the gals who used to be in some of our workouts, called Lisa, was like, hey, and I know exactly what you're doing. If you're a foreigner in the US, people introduce you to their friends just to hear you talk so they can look cool, right? And so she's like, you're leaving already? And I said, yep. And she's like, you should come hang out with us. So I walked over there, and sitting right next to her was the lady now known as Mrs. Honey.
Was it magical at first sight, or did y'all have to take a little while to?
Well, that was a Friday. We hung out at a bar and talked into the wee hours of the morning, all Friday night into Saturday morning. I dropped her home that night. I was a gentleman. I just gave her a high five or a fist bump. And I think the only lie I've ever told my wife was the following day, when I said that me and a buddy are going out to a little sports bar and to watch the fights or whatever. Feel free to tag along if you don't have any plans.
And which part of that was the lie?
All of it.
You just wanted to see her again.
She shows up at the house, and I walk outside, and we get into her car or my car, I can't remember. And we start driving, and she was like, we're not going to the restaurant are we? And I said, nope. She said, your roommate's not coming. I said, nope. I said, we're going to the movies. And I took her to watch The Kingsman back in 2015. And her side of the story was I sat down next to her with my hand like that the entire movie. I don't remember that part. But yeah, she's been hanging out ever since.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
So when did y'all get married?
About 10 and a half, 11 months later, February 1, 2016.
When you know, you know?
When you know, yeah.
Did you feel like you knew from like that night?
I'm
when
not,
did you know?
Certainly not pounding my own chest, but there've been a lot of experiences with ladies along the way. It's kind of easy when you're an athlete in college in the US. And I knew that she was very different. I knew very early on that, I mean, she was beautiful. I mean, that takes a second to look at, to find out. And the conversation and just being near her just felt different. And, you know, I was like, well, might as well have this forever, right? So I popped the question. She was very gracious and said yes. And about last month, we just celebrated our 6-year wedding anniversary.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Fun fact, we actually got married 3 times.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
This is a new fact for me.
Yeah. February 1 was at the courthouse in Lincoln, Nebraska. And we kind of surprised everybody. And we got married again in October of that year in Michigan with her family. You know, the whole formal.
Did they know when you did the formal wedding that you'd already done
the
informal?
Yeah. And then we got married in December that same year in Barbados with my family and my friends. And that was just it was a good time.
Did she have to buy 3 dresses?
I think she might have. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I think so, yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
I took a selfie at each one of our weddings. Happy to send you that as well.
I think maybe I need to rethink this. We just had one wedding. I might need some extra dresses and shoes to have have another couple of weddings.
That's right. Yeah. Any excuse.
All right. So let's kind of fast forward.
Mm-hmm.
What year did you start your, as you said, vacation? 20.
Well, let June 1st, 2018. We packed all of our stuff up into a U-Haul van, tiny U-Haul van, and we moved to Texas. And I started with Northwestern, like right then. And I started not feeling well October of 2018. You know, allergies, you know. It felt a little bit like COVID, if anyone has had COVID. And I was taking multivitamins, I was taking allergy pills, and, you know, I felt a little bit better, but this weird cough just kept lingering. And it wasn't a bad cough, but it was like like every minute or so. And it started affecting my career where I couldn't make phone calls, or if I was kind of knee to knee with a client, you know, it didn't look good because I was coughing on them like once a minute. So the wife said, you should go to the doctor and get that checked out. But, you know, if you're a guy, we're not going to the doctor unless something is like hanging off, you know what I mean? So I was kind of reluctant to go, but I went to the doctor and they diagnosed me in October with bronchitis. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. You know, coughing, bronchitis. They gave me some antibiotics, and around 2 rounds go by and not really a whole lot of improvement. So I go back maybe November and they said, hey, it's now acute bronchitis. You need to take these steroids. And I was all fired up. I was like, yeah, steroids, let's go. But they said, it's not those kind of steroids. In fact, these ones are kind of bad for your ligaments. So don't do a whole lot of activity while you're recovering, because we don't want you to like snap something, right? So I started taking the steroids. And a couple of days later, I started feeling like really terrible. Like inside my body, my bones ached. It was like the worst feeling ever, like inside.
And you're not able to work at that time.
I started not working that much. I was maybe 2 days a week at that point. And the cough was getting worse. And it felt like somebody was standing on my chest. And I noticed it one night when we had a cat back then. And the cat would just come and sit on my chest. And when I was like, this feels like the cat weighs like 50 pounds, right? It's a little house cat. And when the cat got off, the tightness in my chest was still there. Anyway, so the person who told me I had acute bronchitis and needed to take the steroids also scheduled me to see a pulmonologist in Plano. And we went there and we did like a pulmonary function test, and he diagnoses me with some weird old man disease like COPD or something like that. And he said it's rare for someone with your age, because I had just turned 30. Actually, I wasn't 31 yet. I was still 30.
And your physical
Yeah,
fitness.
yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
were you
I
were
was pretty.
ripped
I
then.
was in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said it's rare for someone with your age and your athletic background to have this. So let's do a CT scan just to make sure
Yeah.
everything's okay.
So at that point in this process, were you kind of questioning their diagnoses and questioning what they were doing for you? Or were you just kind of trusting along the way?
I know I didn't feel good. I know that, it just felt like when you have the flu and you're kind of down for 2 days and you're in bed, it was like that times like 10. So I knew something was up, but the diagnosis that we later got, that was the farthest thing from
Yeah.
my mind.
But in that moment, you are physically fit,
Yeah.
you're young,
Mm-hmm.
you're athletic.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, or maybe not so suddenly, but over a course of a few months,
Yeah.
you're basically bedridden, unable to work, can't hardly breathe,
Yeah.
and seeming to have
Yeah.
doctors kind of guessing what's wrong with you.
In their defense, I don't think it was like actual doctors. It was someone that you go to like Care Now and see. The first 2 diagnoses and came from like a Care Now clinic. And after the CT scan, we get a phone call from the pulmonologist who ordered the CT scan. And he said, "James, do you know you have a huge mass in your chest?" And I was a little bit of a jokester back in the day. I was like, "Bro, listen, I could bench like 3.5. Of course, I got a huge mass on my chest. In fact, if you look carefully, you should see 2 huge masses on my chest." But he wasn't having it. He was like, "It's in your chest, James. It's not on your chest." And that was kind of like puzzling to me. I was like, how did something get in there? Like, I didn't swallow anything. So he ordered some more like follow-up tests.
Yeah.
And at that stage, I wasn't sleeping in bed next to my wife. I was sleeping on the couch, almost vertically, because if I laid flat, like I couldn't breathe and I was coughing all the time. So I was on the couch sleeping similar to how I am right now and feeling absolutely terrible, not working. And now this is late December 2018. And we did some follow-on tests. We did a needle biopsy. We did some blood work. And that was my first time being ever under anesthesia. And the fear that, you have no guarantee that you're waking up, or at least in my mind, I didn't think that. So I was terrified.
So they took needles and went in and tested the mass?
Yeah. And so I woke up. Funny story. I hate all of that stuff. My hands are sweating right now just thinking about it. But while I was in the, about to go in for the procedure, the wife came. I heard her next to me and she was like, "Hey, James." And I said, "Honey, are we done?" And she said, "James, no, you're resisting the whatever gas that they're giving you and you haven't gone to sleep yet." And I said, "I know, I'm trying to resist." But they did the needle biopsy. And the results that they gave me, I thought were good news, because they said everything that they're pulling out of there is dead or liquid. So I was like, that's pretty good, right? But apparently fast forward, there was a mass in my chest. Everything that apparently it was growing so fast that it couldn't feed itself, which is
So it was surrounding itself with dead tissue?
Apparently it was just growing and it couldn't feed itself. So everything kind of inside was dead.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And tell me about the day that you got the phone call, your wife was in the shower, the day you got the diagnosis.
It was 7:00 in the morning, like 7:00 a.m., January 7th, 2019. I get a phone call from a Plano phone number. And it was the guy who ordered the CT scan, the pulmonologist. And he said, "James, I got the results back from the mass in your chest." And I was kind of hesitant, I was kind of nervous because at that time I thought something was going on. And I said, "Okay." He said, it's malignant." And I said, "That's good, right?" Because I was so naive back then. I didn't know what malignant meant. And he said, "No, you have cancer." And I was like, how can I have cancer. I used to be healthy. I worked out all the time. I used to eat tons of salad on my hamburger, but whatever. How do I get cancer? And so the wife had come home a few minutes prior to that phone call from like Orange Theory or a run or something like that. And she was in the shower. And she was in the shower for what seemed like forever. And I was just waiting for her just to come. I was on the couch. I was just waiting for her to come outside so I can tell her. And she came outside and I was like, honey, sit. And then I said, apparently I have cancer. And I think that was the first time I kind of was a little bit like I ever contemplated my own mortality then. And even looking back, it was almost like surreal at that point. So she gave me a hug and she said, whatever it takes, we'll get through this. And I was still feeling absolutely terrible. She went off to work. I kind of was glad that she went off to work to kind of give her something to focus on while I kind of tried to digest and process all of this.
So that was January
7th, 2019.
And what did they give you at that moment? Did they give you any plan or what were we going to do next?
The guy on the phone said, he knew that I was a little bit of a jokester. He said, I've scheduled an appointment with you with an oncologist in Plano, and I strongly suggest that you show up. And I was like, okay. So it was like 4 p.m. that afternoon. I showed up.
Same day.
Same day.
Yeah.
And
did you think about not showing up?
Oh, yeah. And I was very proud of myself because it was the first time I ever did any blood work. I have a needle phobia. It was the first time I ever did any blood work by myself. And I hate all of that. So I was in the doctor's waiting room, the little tiny clinic office. The door was closed and I felt like my heart was jumping out of my chest. I was so nervous.
Did you think about running away?
Yeah. And my wife, I have no idea how she knew that I was going there or which room I was in. But as the oncologist was telling me all this news, I was thinking about just sneaking out of there and just being gone. But boom, in pops my wife and the oncologist. Well, first of all, the oncologist, the first thing she said to me was, congratulations. And I was like, sweet, misdiagnosis. Let's go. Let's get out of here. And she said, normally people with tumor markers as high as yours, they don't walk in here. And I was trying to process that. I was like, what do you mean? Did they skateboard in here? Did they rollerblade? What are you talking about? And she said, normally they're dead. And that the weight of that statement was just, it was heavy. And then that was the moment that the wife came in. And she said, I can't remember exactly what she said, but she said, I want to admit you to the hospital tonight, like right now. So we go across the street.
Was not what you were expecting to hear.
No. It was not. So we go to the hospital and literally across the street. And honestly, not a moment too soon because my heart was about to explode. My lungs were not working. My kidneys, my livers were shutting down.
The tumor was the size
of an American football in my chest.
Like in between like your lungs and your heart, like in there.
It was squished in there. Yeah. Yeah, kind of.
And it was pushing on your windpipe?
That's what they said. Yeah, normally your windpipe is meant to be about the size of a quarter. But they said mine was less than, the inside of a pen. The little ink thing in a pen?
Yeah.
So breathing was like quite literally like breathing through a straw. And yeah, it was not being able to breathe is perhaps one of the most unique feelings ever. Yeah.
They admit you to the hospital that night.
Yeah.
And you're there for, I guess, a couple of days while they get a treatment plan together.
I was there for a month.
So was there a moment in there, you told me about this moment where you're middle of the night, you're watching TV. Tell me about that moment.
Yeah, I think we need to ramp up to that a little bit. I go there and all the bad news starts just pouring in, right? We have no idea what type of cancer you have. We can't do testing on it because you won't survive anesthesia. We want to fly you from Plano, Texas to MD Anderson, Houston, but you're not going to survive the flight. There was people in the hospital room asking my wife where my will and my life insurance were. They were trying to get my parents and my in-laws here as fast. It was just chaos in there. So
And you're a life insurance salesman.
Part of what I did back then was life insurance, and I'd canceled the policy on myself previously and never scheduled a medical to get the new one reinstated. And so everything was kind of going downhill real fast, and they moved me from the regular oncology ward, which is bad enough, to the ICU. And one night, I was sleeping a lot during the day, but for whatever reason, I couldn't sleep at night. So I was just watching the normal stuff that they have late at night on TV. And I don't know why I was on this news station, and I don't know why this affected me so much as it did, but there was, I think, an American Airlines CEO that died, and they were having like a memorial or something for work for him. And I just remember like tearing up, and I was like, I couldn't even see the TV behind the tears. And you see people die on TV all the time, and it doesn't it's like, you're almost like insensitive to it. But this one just kind of hit different, and I don't know who that CEO is, and you're seeing his widow up there, and I kind of in my mind saw my wife in her spot, and I was like, he didn't mean to die, why is he not here? Why did he deserve to die? As I'm plugged into 1,000 different machines.
And in that moment, did kind of the gravity sit on you?
Oh yeah. And it kind of around that time was how real the situation was, because they said that they couldn't even start chemotherapy because my kidneys weren't good enough. And I remember one night, I needed to pee, and I'm hooked into something monitoring my blood pressure here, and I had a PICC line on this side that they had 2 ports, and they'd give me all my IV treatments through this arm. And I remember trying to go to the bathroom, and I'm sitting at the edge of the bed, Michelle, and I'm pushing with all my might to get up off of this bed, and I couldn't get off of the bed. And that sounds like whatever to whoever's listening, but when you're trying with all your might just to stand up, it puts and you can't do it, and I'm shouting at myself in my brain, stand up. And 100% of my max effort couldn't get me out of that bed. It really puts things in perspective real fast.
When you're sitting there in the middle of the night watching this news story about somebody else's funeral and somebody else's widow, how did you feel? How did that make you feel?
It's terrified cliche. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm a believer, and I believe that we go somewhere nice when we're not here. But I felt like I wasn't ready yet. I wanted to stay here as long as I could.
Yeah.
And they were saying that they were telling my parents that I might not be around tomorrow. So that was a very real realization that I came to, right?
You're in ICU, and I assume you're kind of not really aware of everything that's going on around you on a minute-by-minute basis.
True. Yeah. There was, the entire month of January, I remember bits and pieces from.
Was there a moment or a point in time shortly after this realization of the gravity of your own mortality? Was there a moment shortly after that where you really had a mindset shift?
Yeah. And it was one of the few moments that I remember, like I can remember the sounds, the smells, I can remember what people's faces looked like. When the majority of any day I couldn't remember anything. So what happened was, and I think you're the only person I've told this publicly to, was my parents were there. They kind of jumped on a plane last minute. And I knew that was serious, because if you have a headache, your mom isn't going to fly halfway around the world for a headache, right? And so I knew my parents were there. I knew my in-laws were there. And one afternoon, I think, people were kind of making a little bit of noise by the door. And my dad stuck his head around. And I was like, okay. And he came inside holding a little baby. Now, in the fog of all of that was going on, I'm trying to process, like, why does my dad have a baby? I mean, that's not my baby. And it was in like one of those little things that you put in a car seat, like that attached to like the back seat of a car. And I'm still trying to process who this baby is. And then my sister, my next, we have two sisters. I'm the oldest of three. And my sister Zoe came inside, and I was like, oh, that's her youngest baby, Mark.
Were you confused why Zoe was there?
Well, I know now why Zoe was there is because like they didn't think I was going to be around for a while.
And she lives in
Canada. She lives in Nova Scotia, Canada. So she jumped on a plane and left her two older sons with her husband, and brought the youngest one with her because he was still young. He was, I don't know, less than a year probably. And when she brought him in, and I was like, everyone loves babies, right? And she, I love my nephews. I have 4 of them. And she put him on my chest. And I knew at that moment that she was bringing him here because, she wanted him to maybe see me one last time. And it was at that moment that I realized that like this is a must win. Like this became like real, 100%. Because, I love all of my nephews, but if someone is a year old, they're not going to remember you. Sorry. And I said, I have to make it so he can know his uncle. And that's when I realized that we're going to get as scrappy, and my mind needs to get right now. That was a change. I have no idea what day that was, but it was some day in January. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's impactful to me that of all the things that you don't remember or do remember, that you remember the baby laying on you.
Yeah. I sent you that picture, didn't I? Mm-hmm. That was a heavy moment because you realize that she's bringing him to see you one more time. That's a big realization that I think that I kind of realized then, but I definitely realize now. And it became a must win, whatever it takes.
And looking back on it, do you feel like that was your turning point?
Yeah. When you're plugged in there and you're just panicking, and people are doing all the tests and the scans and whatever, and you're feeling terrible, you're kind of at the mercy of other people. And that was the moment where I kind of put my brain in charge. And I said, up here, this is what's going to get us through treatment. We're going to be as strong as we need to be. We're going to accept all the treatment, and we're going to heal up as fast as we can. Yeah, I came very close to telling my sister that this Christmas when we were home, but I couldn't bring myself to tell her that. So
have you told her now?
Now she knows. Yeah. Sorry.
How old is Mark now?
He was born in mid 2018, so he's about to be 4, or maybe just turned 4. Yeah.
You have always been a big fan of Special Forces, Navy SEALs. Mm-hmm. You started chemo, I guess, shortly after this gathering of the family.
I can't remember when chemo started, but they said that they're not going to wait to figure out what type of cancer I had. They narrowed it down to something close enough, and created a protocol and it said, this is what we're going to do.
And they had 4 types of chemo, but you weren't even strong enough to do the first type that they wanted to do.
3 that they were going to do, bleomycin, etoposide, and cisplatin. And bleomycin apparently is really bad for your lungs, and my lungs were already jacked up. So they said that we're going to hold off on bleomycin until your lungs get better. So I started with essentially 2/3 of the protocol for the first 2 rounds of chemo.
What type of cancer did they finally diagnose you with?
They said it was a non-seminomatous mediastinal germ cell tumor, which most of the time metastasizes from testicular cancer, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say my boys are fine, but yeah.
So for some reason, it didn't happen down there. It happened up here in your chest.
There, yeah. Which I'm, grateful for small mercies, I guess.
Super rare.
Very rare, yeah.
You started chemo.
Yeah.
And I really want you to talk about that mindset shift. Like you were laying there in the hospital bed in ICU, in and out of knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
You have the baby on your chest.
Yeah.
And you immediately went into a mindset shift.
Yeah.
So talk about how that mindset shift, how you use that going through your chemo.
I believe, the power of the mind is something that's almost untapped. And I believe it could be our strongest asset if we know how to use it correctly. And I've read about this for, many years prior. And it was almost like I was using visualization techniques as they were pumping me full of these chemo drugs. And cancer is bad, right? Cancer is these cells that go rogue and renegade.
Right.
And I was visualizing in the most graphic and dark way that these chemo drugs were almost like special forces operators bursting in the room and just laying waste to every single bad cell that was in my body. And they were just slaughtering it. And it was ugly.
Like guns blazing.
Guns blazing.
Everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everything you see in the movies.
Everything you see in the movies and more. Yeah. And it was attacking these tumor cells, and these tumor cells were getting weak and dying off. And slowly, in my mind, we started winning. I think victory first starts in the mind. And so I was winning in my mind before I even started winning in the body. But very lucky, I'm so fortunate that after chemo started, like the good news started trickling in slowly. Like, it seems to be working. The numbers are heading in the right direction. The only bad thing was because of how fast the tumor was breaking down, my kidneys couldn't handle the tumor lysis, and they were talking about putting me on dialysis. So, I think that, chemo works, but I think that the visualization techniques and that mindset of just never giving up and just I'm not dead, I can't quit, really helped. Kind of I'm struggling to articulate what's going on in my brain right now, what I was thinking back then, but it really helped essentially kill it, I think.
So having this, basically imagining this war taking place inside your chest.
That's probably what exactly was happening.
Of some Navy SEALs just laying waste to some bad guys, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
And I don't want to pass over something you just said. Did you have a mantra besides the Navy SEALs inside your body?
Yeah.
Did you have a mantra that you said to yourself during this process?
Yeah, not dead, can't quit.
Not dead, can't quit.
Not dead, can't quit. And I say that sometimes to myself today, perfectly healthy today, apart from being a little bit fat, but not dead, can't quit. Even when life gets tough and you feel like it's kicking you in the butt a little bit, I'm not dead, I can't quit. Even when, bad days are inevitable, right? In personal life or work or whatever, you have a bad day. I'm like, listen, a bad day here is better than any other day in the hospital.
Yeah. You were in the hospital at that point for how long? For
about a month. I got discharged, I think it was the last day of January. Yeah.
How many chemo treatments had you gone through at that point? 1
in the ICU, which I understand from talking to the people at Baylor, Scott and White and Plano that it's rare that they do chemo in the ICU. So they discharged me for 2 or 3 days. I was well enough to sleep in my bed, and it was so good just to sleep next to the wife again. And so they readmitted me. They said, we're going to discharge you for a couple of days, and we're going to readmit you for round 2 to do just 1 week in the hospital. And I believe the initial protocol was 6 rounds of bleomycin, etoposide, and cisplatin. And I was like, okay, we're going to use this as a challenge. We're going to get the mind right, and we're going to be done chemo before round 6. We're going to be done in 5 rounds. And keep in mind that I didn't get the full protocol for the first 2 rounds until my lungs were better. So I was, to answer your question, I was readmitted for round 2, and then I finished it up as an outpatient. So I'd sleep at home and come in chemo days and go back home.
How many rounds did you end up doing?
That's a great question. And we were meant to do 4. And my personal goal that I was shooting for was to be done in 5. The day that round 5 was meant to start, I did my labs. I was sitting in the chair ready to get plugged in. The nurses at Baylor Scott & White are incredible. I can't say enough nice things about them. And I'm ready and I'm waiting and I'm like, today's going to be a long day. Let's get going. Right?
Getting your mind right.
Because, it's about 8 hours that you need to be there.
Yeah.
And so they came over and they called me back and said, you need to go speak to the PA again. So I went back in there and he was like, you're done. And I was kind of bummed. I was like, what? Because I thought that we were postponing chemo again because round 4 was postponed due to my white blood cell count being too low. So I was there thinking, we're done. I mean, we can't do it today because my white blood cell count is too low. I go back in there and he tells me that we're done chemo. After 4 rounds, he said, your tumor markers have normalized and you're now considered cancer-free. And that was pretty cool. That was a good moment. Part of me was very happy, but I've studied a little bit of Stockholm syndrome after that, and I felt like I didn't know what to do, like with myself, if I didn't have to do chemo every day, because that was my life every day for like 4 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do I need to do now? But yeah, we with, I think, visualization, prayers, chemo, we managed to kill it in 4 rounds.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But you weren't finished.
We weren't finished.
You weren't finished.
I thought I should have been finished. We did another CT scan, and it showed that we'd done a lot of scans along the way, a lot of X-rays and everything, and they said that the tumor had shrunk from about the size of an American football to about the size of a softball. And I was like, great, that's good news, cool. And they were still talking about surgery. They were talking about surgery from like day 1, but they said, we're not going to do it because he's not going to survive surgery. So I was kind of hoping, Michelle, I have a giant needle phobia. I don't like anything medical. I don't want anything poking me. Even if the tumor was on my foot, I would still be averse to surgery. But it's in my chest, that's a lot of stuff is going on in there.
Mm-hmm.
And they were still talking about surgery, and I was like, can we just leave it in there? My cardiothoracic surgeon says, no, we got to go in and go get it. So at the urging of everybody, I agreed, and I signed the whatever to, agree to surgery.
Yeah.
So I think chemo finished middle of April, 2019, and surgery was scheduled for May 20th, 2019. Yeah, I don't know if we want to go into that, but I was so glad to be like cancer-free that I wanted to just leave the tumor in there, but they said, no, we got to go get it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't quite done yet.
So they removed the tumor.
Yeah, they cracked me open like an egg.
Yeah, all the way down.
All the way down, right there.
Yeah.
Do you want a picture of that?
Cracked your chest open. Yeah, we have a picture. Cracked your chest open.
Yeah.
And
they went and got it. My wife has a picture on her phone of me cracked wide open with the doctor holding the tumor in his hands like that.
Oh my God.
I don't
think we'll show that.
I don't ever want to see that picture.
Yeah,
No, I don't want to see it. I'm glad that she has it.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the tumor went bye-bye out of your body, and they sewed you back up.
Yep. They did pathology at Baylor Scott & White in Plano. and they said it looked good, and they sent it to Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York for a full pathology. And I got the phone call a couple months later, like in July, saying that, hey, it looks good. No evidence of cancer anywhere. So at that point, they said I wasn't in remission. I was cured, and I couldn't have been more happy.
This is a type of cancer, I guess, then that doesn't have a high chance of coming back.
Yeah, and all the checkups, the further out we go, the happier my oncologist is, and so I think May this year will be 3 years.
Okay.
3 years, yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, what a difficult time in your life, though.
It certainly wasn't easy. I think on some level that is, it was kind of not easy for me, but I think on many levels it's almost harder for like family members,
I was going to ask you about that. I mean, you've gone through the chemo. You are, finished with chemo. You have the surgery. The tumor's gone. You're cured. They've told you like, okay, this chapter is closed. You're done.
Yeah.
But the emotional healing isn't over.
Yeah.
How was your relationship with your wife?
She was a pillar of strength from the beginning, and all through treatment. And I couldn't be more thankful and grateful for a better spouse and better someone to do this with. Where I think lesser individuals would have been like, nope, and jump ship early. Particularly when you see your husband that was formerly something great, all the way diminished to something that can't really wipe his own butt. And the financial burdens that go along with that is just insane. It took a long time to kind of build things back to where they were
with your marriage.
Yeah. And I'm blessed to have such a great marriage, Michelle. Like I'm so lucky, and it takes a lot of work. Nothing easy, right? And I'll tell you something that I don't think I've told anyone else, but I think in many ways my wife was kind of mentally preparing herself for me not being here. And I think I wasn't in a physical state to do a lot of active things for many, many months after surgery. Like I couldn't drive for 8-10 weeks. But the first time, many months after that we were intimate, like she was crying like I've never seen anyone cry before, to the point where I was like, what is going on? And she spoke to, someone, a professional after that. And I think in many ways they said that she was kind of preparing her mind and her body for not me being here. And, it's been a little bit of a, I don't want to say uphill battle, but it's been a struggle getting things back to as good as they were before I got sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a fight that's worth fighting for, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that you've got each other and you're both willing to do that.
Yeah.
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 That's amazing.
I thank the Lord for her every day.
What are the lessons that, you're here now several years later, looking back on what you've been through, the good, the very, very down times, and now coming back up into, your career and your marriage, all having successes. What are the lessons that you take away from that?
A couple things come to mind. And the first one is something that I touched on before. I was like, you're not dead, you can't quit. You're not dead, you can't quit. You can't even think about quitting for a second. Because I'll tell you something, when I was in that hospital room and I was looking at healthy people on the TV, or I was looking at the tollway people driving by, I would have given anything to be like them at that moment. So I feel now, as a healthy person, I owe it to everybody that's going through whatever to live my best life.
Yes.
And just to not even think about quitting for 1 second.
Don't you think some people that maybe haven't gone through things that are even half as tough as what you've gone through just take that for granted?
They certainly do, but I think toughness and challenges are all relative. What might have been really tough for me is peanuts to compare what someone else has went through. And another thing that kind of comes to mind is, life. I can't remember who said this, but life is about 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. So I try to share my story and my mission with whoever I can, because if it just helps one person who may be having a bad day or maybe a little bit down in the dumps or going through cancer treatment, I get connected to those people all the time. And I feel like if I could just put their mind at ease and tell them it's all going to be all right, because I've been through pretty much the exact same thing. If I can help just one person, I feel like it's mission complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing, trying to be that inspiration to others and sharing that part of yourself with them.
Yeah.
And then I can't let it go. Just the effect of your mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big believer in the growth mindset, and in when you've got your mind right, you can get everything else to follow in place.
Yeah. I said earlier, victory happens first in the mind. Not on the battlefield, not on the tennis court, not in the boxing ring, not in the law room or wherever you guys argue.
Yeah.
It happens first here.
Was visualization a part of your coaching and your athletics? Was that something you learned, doing some other part of your life?
The answer to that is yes and no. It wasn't something that was formally taught, but I lived next door to a gal who played Wimbledon. She got to the quarterfinals of Wimbledon. Her name's Serena De Beer. She's from South Africa. And she was big into the power of the mind. And back then when I was 17, 18 years old, I thought all of that was hocus pocus stuff. I'm big into the power of the body. Like you can think about running, I'll outrun you sort of mindset. But she shared with me two books or DVDs, and the first one was The Secret. And that was I don't know if you read that book or seen the movie, but that was kind of like a light bulb moment that I was like, wow, you can actually control your own destiny through what you think, and what you hold in here, you'll hold here. And the second one was What the Bleep Do We Know? And that's kind of along the same lines, but The Secret was perhaps that first door to realizing that the mind is a different realm that we don't really understand much of right now. So it wasn't a giant part of training. We spent hours on the tennis court. We didn't spend any time thinking through it or how to think, but it was something that I kind of studied outside, And these are things that I employ to this day, even when I'm playing golf with the wife on Sundays. Yeah.
All right. So to wrap it up, I have this little ball.
Oh, cool.
And it has questions on it.
Oh, lovely.
So I'm going to toss it to you, and wherever your thumb lands, I mean, you do have two thumbs, so I guess you can pick.
Really?
But you have to answer one of the questions where your thumb lands, and then you toss it back to me, and I'll answer a question.
Oh, good deal.
All right,
cool.
all right. But you have to catch it.
For sure.
If it goes way over there, we got a problem.
I don't want to hit your fancy mic.
All right, here we go.
Okay, so what's this one? What do you most value in a friendship? Someone who is dependable and someone who is present.
I like that, present.
Present.
It's amazing to me in your story, the value of that proposition right there, because your sister was all the way up in Canada with her family, and she had to walk away from a lot of family responsibilities to come just be present with you in that moment.
And my mom and dad as well. My mom was with me and my wife from beginning to end, and I don't know if I could have done it without her. She was doing everything.
And in those moments, in those very, very first moments that were so impactful to you, just the fact that they were present was so meaningful, even as you remember the story back in your mind.
Yeah.
And the fact that your little nephew was there on your chest. I mean, just the presence.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes whenever we have friends that are going through things, we don't value just that presence.
Yeah. And I'll go one step deeper, like Michelle. Like, how many times in our personal lives we're sitting down with friends, family members, spouses, and we're there in the body, but our brain might be thinking about this thing that we need to do at work, or
Yes.
this conversation that we had, or this thing that we want to do.
Or answering emails.
Yeah. So I think just being here, not only in body, but present,
Right.
is very important.
That's amazing. All right, I'll answer. Yeah, you have to toss it easy. All right. Least favorite mode of transportation. I got an easy one. You got a hard one.
Yeah, okay.
My least favorite mode of transportation. I'm going to say bicycle, because that requires a lot of effort, and I've never been very good at riding a bicycle.
Really?
Even whenever I was a kid.
Yeah.
Even whenever I was a kid, we lived way out in the country. And so it wasn't a place like a neighborhood where I could just go ride a bicycle as a kid. So I was never really raised riding bicycles. So even to this day, if it was a difference between walking or riding a bicycle, I'm gonna use the 2 feet God gave me.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. All right. One more.
Alrighty. I got yours. I saw one. I'm gonna cheat a little bit.
You're cheating.
I'm cheating. I said, there was something that, what was on your bucket list?
Okay, tell me what's on your bucket list.
When I was a kid, a young kid, 4, 5, 6 years old, you know how your parents give you little books or whatever, right? And it was mostly illustrations, but with a little story behind it. It was the story of climbing Mount Everest with Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay.
Okay.
And when I was a little kid, I was like, I want to climb Mount Everest. And then I thought I was fit enough to do it as like a young teenager. Then I found out someone like 15 years old did it. And I was like, crap. So then now I probably won't break any records, but I kind of want to climb something very, very high just to say that I've done it.
That's amazing. Well, and one thing we didn't talk about, you only have use of one lung now.
Yeah, the right one is working. They took part of the left one in surgery, and I think they said that they nicked my phrenic nerve, which regulates your diaphragm.
Yeah.
So there's only air kind of going into this one. And not only that, apart the chemo drugs, the bleomycin, when I do a pulmonary function test, it's only diffusing gas at about 50%. So essentially I have like quarter of my lung capacity. Yeah. But I still want to climb something big.
Yeah, no, that'd be an amazing feat for you.
Yeah.
If your mind believes it, you can do it.
Yeah. 100%.
All right, one more. And then,
there we go.
And then you told me you would tell me a joke. What's the age you would most want to relive?
Oh, is that for me?
That's for me. I have to answer that one. What's the age? Here's the thing. I kind of like the age I'm at right now.
Yeah, 35.
Well, whatever that is right now. No, I'm over 50. I think that's a pretty darn good age. In looking back on all the ages I'd have to choose from, I'd want to change a lot of things if I was going to go back to those ages. So that's not really the question, right? I'd have to relive it the way it was.
Yeah.
I feel like, when you're in that like 20 to 30 range, like that's still your young people, like that's like you're living your best life or whatever. Yeah. When you turn 30, like this thing happens where you kind of magically on the day you turn 30, you look in the mirror and you're like, whoa, I'm a grown-up now. Yeah. And then you got to start acting like a grown-up. You can't act like you're 20 anymore. That's right. You got to act like you're 30. And kind of for me, that 30 to 50 range was like the grown-up years of, career achievements and family and whatever. And then this magical thing happened whenever I turned 50. It was like I realized one day when I turned 50 that like all these things that you think matter in life don't necessarily matter. Like it all just melts away and you're 50 now and you kind of don't give a crap what anybody thinks. All these things that you thought were important or or what everybody else thought about you. Like it just kind of all melts away and you're
Right.
just like you.
Yeah.
So I feel like my 50s are kind of the time for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, Michelle, 50 looks good on you.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Yeah.
Now you promised you'd tell me a joke.
The one that I told you, was that appropriate?
You
I'll
can
tell
tell
it to
it.
you.
Don't-
They can bleep it if they want.
You can tell it.
You ready for it?
Yes, I'm ready.
I read this in a journal recently, so I don't know if it's a joke or if it's true. But there's a food that's about 80 to 85% likely to decrease a woman's sex drive.
Oh, really?
Yeah, true.
80 to 85%.
Yeah,
And
proven.
what food is that?
It's called wedding cake.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love your sense of humor.
Thank you.
I love your outlook on life, and the inspiration that you just exude. So thank you for being with me today, and thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. So that is my friend, James Ingram. And I hope that you have been inspired by him and moved by him. The thing that sticks with me, not only about the mindset and using your mind to affect a difference in whatever the goals are that you're trying to achieve, but the thing that really sticks with me is not dead, don't quit. And I hope that you will each take that with you every day, remembering James and remembering James's story. If you're not dead, you can't quit. Just keep going and keep plugging away at life, no matter how bad it gets or how good it gets. Keep going. And I like to say, I'll rest when I'm dead. So, as long as we've got life to live and breath to breathe, I want you to keep going and give life everything you've got.